Hey, hey, everybody. My name's Jim Deedlow. He's Matt Hansen. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Good. Good to be back.
We have been away from this podcast for a couple weeks because of a very specific thing. We're recording here in August of 2026. If you're hearing it a year on down the line, it still applies. But we were hit with what's called a derecho, or a hurricane winds inland in the middle of America. They came across Iowa, came across Illinois, and then they picked up some speed as they approached Lake Michigan and just decimated the entire southern area of Illinois and Indiana, even into Michigan. And we have been I was without power at my home for 2 weeks, and most people were, or I think it was 95% of people were affected in this area. It is, we've got a major disaster declaration that just came out from President Trump, and we're rebuilding. And that's all. I was on the air covering news for basically 2 weeks. So we got away from the podcast, but we didn't forget about you, because there are things happening during the storm and during the storm recovery that can apply to your small and medium-sized businesses' marketing. And we're going to talk about that today. And I'm pretty excited about this because, I saw a lot of these things firsthand as we were live on our 103-year-old radio station. Believe it or not, 95% of people around here lost power. And for some reason, because we're right next to one of the biggest railroad trunks here in America, we were able to keep power, and that power is actually underground along the railroad tracks. So a lot of times we lose power because something happens with the railroad or whatever, but here we are. Every once in a while when we're doing the podcast, you can actually hear the little bit of the rumble of these major trains by us. But we stayed on the air, and hopefully that will be remembered in our marketing, and it already has. I've already had a couple sales of people like, God, I love what you did and how you guys handle it. Mostly that was Adriana Alvarez, who is producing for us right now, and Lynette Lopez. But how would you respond if your community suddenly lost power, communication, and access to basic services? It's not because if disaster hits, it's when disaster hits. People remember which businesses disappeared and which ones showed up. In this episode, we'll talk about what your business could do to genuinely help without turning tragedy into a marketing opportunity, and how showing up when your community needs you most can build relationships that last long after the power comes on. Matt Hansen, you were affected.
Yeah, it was funny because I was driving home after it hit, and my 20-minute drive turned into an hour 40 because of all the trees and debris that was everywhere. But, it's interesting to me how everyone responded. So, I turned to you guys. I think I texted you that day and told you how long it took me to get home. And it was, I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. I've seen tornadoes in the past. I'm from the Midwest. We stand out in the backyard and watch them. It's not a big deal. But
I hope we cut that out, but we can't. We're live on the radio.
That's
because
what we do.
That is my daughter's, the son-in-law. He's from New York. And he wants to see it.
Yeah.
So he's taking the kid out and holding the kid, watching to the southwest. And my daughter's like, don't teach him that.
That's the most dad thing I've ever heard.
Well, yeah. Well,
you stand out there, look at the rain.
We've had 2 small tornadoes go through, where I live. And basically, 3-4 weeks ago, I was standing at the top of my stairs videotaping the one going by. And then the last one, it was south of me. That was literally 2 streets south of me is where that one hit, down by me. So what we're looking at with this, though, is that you start to see, everyone goes to their reliable sources. So obviously I went to you guys to hear what was going on the radio as I was driving home in that parking lot that was all the way home because there was literally no power anywhere. And then you go to social media, you start to think about your phone and you want to see what's going on out there. And the companies that responded were just amazing, right? There were companies that continue to go out there and push content, but there were other companies that came out of the woodwork and just, they stopped their existing marketing plans and said, all right, we're here to help. We have resources. We have this, we have that, right? And it was, I started seeing water that was being given out and food that was being given out. And, there was this coordinating effort among all these different businesses. They were giving out carbon monoxide detectors because there were fires like crazy from all the generators that were catching on fire and lighting people's garages or houses on fire. So it was interesting to me to see how people responded. And I had clients that were texting me and saying, what do we do? How do we respond in this? And many of them wanted to just put something out there, right? We're thinking about you and all this other stuff. But I kept talking to them and I said, well, that's great, but that's pointless at this point. Like what do you have to offer to those people? I mean, do you have product that you can give them? Do you have services that you can give them? Do you have labor that you can give them? Because quite honestly, the amount of trees that I've cleaned up in the last 2 weeks, and I don't have a major chainsaw, but I was cutting through with like one of those on a pole kind of things, and I'm cutting through 2-foot wide tree trunks, trying to cut all of this stuff through. And I saw neighbors coming together and helping. Like my in-laws had to be, their driveway was completely covered with a tree, and the whole neighborhood came together. And that was what as I was thinking about when we come back and do our first podcast after all of this, I just wanted to say that the companies around the area that took the initiative, that were calling out for other people to say, hey, let's partner together. There's this food handout over here. We're hosting warming or cooling centers. We've got power. If you don't have power, you need running water. Or I'm seeing, if you just need a shower, you can come over to our facilities and use our showers. Like that is so much bigger than any kind of marketing message you can put out there, because those people realize you are part of the community.
So can we case study this?
Sure.
I know that's if you've ever taken a Matt Hansen class, as Adriana Alvarez is doing right now as a graduate student, it's all case study. Oh, what about this? What about that? All right, so here's one. Right now, we're trying to figure out if the Bears are going to come here and build make a $2 billion investment right down the street from where we sit. It has been in the news. The mayor around the corner here of Hammond, the governor, everybody's come together, and it's, I don't know, maybe 50-50 if they're going to come to Hammond, Indiana, and bring the Super Bowl and the Final Four right down the street from where we sit right now. 2 days into this thing happens on a Tuesday, right? Everything is mobilized here locally, maybe partly because we've been through a massive flood before. Mm-hmm. There was some mobilization, and people kind of understood what needed to be done. Adriana and Lynette were, they were little kids when the flood happened, but they responded we had the governor, we had the congressman, we had mayors, we had everybody. They brought them all in. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, I don't even need to quarterback this anymore. It was great. But the Bears, 2 days later, hold a press conference. And I'm like, oh, man, this is good. If I'm their PR person, I'm like, man, here we are. We feel bad for Northwest Indiana, and we're going to give $100,000, $50,000. They probably could have got away with $50,000 at that point, and just had a press conference, put them front and center, told the country about that, and then maybe right at the end say, hey, we're still thinking about where we're going to put this thing, right? They didn't do any of that. They had a press conference where they came out, didn't even mention the storm. And as far as I saw, maybe they did in some other part. And they just said, okay, well, Indiana's still our place. Illinois, are you listening? And they did this press conference that was totally tone deaf to what was happening. I didn't even cover it. I'm like, I'm not covering this in the middle of this. That was awful. And I ripped on them hard. A few days later, what happens? They figure it out. They're taking beating after beating on the air here. Mm-hmm. And probably on social media too. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. It's a massive problem It's a mini Katrina.
Yeah.
And finally they come out. Next thing you know, I get a thing, hey, Jim, we're sending out a press release. They gave $200,000 to the relief efforts. So that faux pas of being totally tone deaf to your surroundings, they probably would have done 100, I imagine, in that first press conference. It cost them another 100 and a bunch of, brand spanking because of that tone deaf. But they recovered. What did you make of that?
I think if you want to be part of the community, you have to understand the community, right? So a client that I'm working with right now, they keep talking about, initiatives and kind of helping the community and all this other stuff. And I keep pushing back. I go, you're not hearing the masses. You're not on social listening to the conversation. You have to understand both sides, because there are two sides to every story, but if you are talking from an executive level and not listening to the masses and what's going on and not understanding the unique dynamic of where we live, right? It's going to fall flat. And there are people to this day, I mean, what are we, 2.5 weeks past at this point, and still don't have power, still can't get down their roads. I mean,
the trees and living rooms, people aren't going to be in their houses for 6 months to a year.
Easily.
The biggest parks around here, they're all closed. They've got down trees. They've got gas lines were cut. I mean, I can't overstate the destruction. So what are you saying? You're saying that people can sniff something that's genuine versus non-genuine?
Without
Explain
a doubt.
that. Explain that.
So a lot of people don't like getting out there in the community and kind of being part of it. And I understand that. People are generally kind of keep to themselves. They don't enjoy
especially in Indiana. We don't want to be bothered.
Right. But if you just try to falsify it, try to put it out there, and it's not authentic, people sniff that out. It's the same way if you're putting stuff out there on social media and everything else, right? Like, we know what's legit and we know what's not. So if you are not part of the community, if you haven't been part of the community, kind of in that case, I mean, they are, but they aren't here, right? They're in Illinois. You have to understand it's a different dynamic, because there may be 800,000 people in Northwest Indiana that have been affected in some capacity here over the last few weeks. But there is a huge diverse population here from if you took every single possibility across the world, you're going to see it in those 800,000 people. So to just respond in a kind of like an overall corporate way. And I'm not calling them out. I'm just saying in general, from a business standpoint, if you're doing it from a corporate viewpoint, it's going to fall flat. If you're not out there in the weeds, if you're not out there helping people, if you're not at the food bank, putting food out there, if you're not volunteering at, your neighbors to cut down trees, if you're just sitting at home in your generator house, that people are going to remember that. And it was funny because
there's a key term. People are going to remember you and your brand during a disaster.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So if they see you out there and you're helping, you're offering, whatever it is, they will remember that when it comes around the next time. Right? So again, when this first happened, you couldn't get gas anywhere. Right, so the gas stations were all closed because they had no power. A few of them came back on.
Your food is spoiling in your fridge, right, but there's no stores open.
Yeah, and you can't get gas for your generator. So if you don't have a natural gas generator, it wasn't running. So people were waiting 3 hours for gas. People were pulling guns on people at gas stations because they were getting in arguments over gas. I mean, this is the thing that was happening. So, when you start to look at that, if you are a business and you have a generator that's sitting in the back of your office or something and you're not using it, offer it up to somebody, offer it to a neighbor, to a customer. Our neighborhood we had, I think, 3 generators for 7 houses, and we were all sharing lines, right? My generator wouldn't start. My engine has gone bad.
You got to start that every year, by the way.
I know. Well, it went out. So we tore it apart. But long story short, it's dead. But my neighbor across the street gave me a line. My neighbor next door gave me a line. I gave the neighbor across the street a couple extension cords to get next door to his neighbor who has a whole house. And it's just, that's who we are. But we may not talk to each of the neighbors on a weekly basis, but when something like that happens, you all rally together. And that's the beautiful thing about a bad situation, is that you start to see the good in people come out. From a small business and medium-sized business perspective, we also start to see who are the good businesses and who are the bad. The ones that come out of the woodwork and start to help the community, people are going to remember that long term. And I saw a ton of that over the last few weeks, and I'm sure you did as well sitting here at WJOB. But, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're offering your help. It doesn't matter if you're offering a generator. Maybe we talk about food, just getting food during this whole thing. If you sell food, I saw a lot of the people that I work with where, they typically will sell desserts or whatever. They were offering free desserts to the NIPSCO workers because they wanted them to, thank them for keep going and helping out and getting all that. Now, that's a unique and interesting experience. Are you going to take a little hit on your expenses for offering that free good? Yeah, of course you are. But you know what? How many people are going to remember the goodness that you did just to provide a small little piece of heaven? And, basically what was going on was hell around here. So that's the interesting part for me, is look around and identify what you have. Let's go back to the grocery stores, right? So if the grocery store is open, offer extended hours. I mean, some of them close at 8 o'clock, some of them close at 11 o'clock. Could you go 24 hours at that point? There's all these little things that you might be able to offer. If you're a gas station and, people need gas and you're supposed to close at 9 o'clock p.m., don't close at 9 p.m. Bring in an extra shift to work through the night so you can make sure that gas is continuing to run. Now, I understand we were running out of gas at some point in some of these stations, but these are the small little things that you can do during an event like this that people are going to remember.
Now, let's take a couple more. First of all, what's the name of the meat market in Griffith? Adriana, can you two-shot us? Yeah. What's the name of can you look it up? They had all the meat and they just went outside and they barbecued everything and just gave it away for free.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a ton of examples of that, but one is kind of the exact opposite of the Bears. The Bears are looking to come in here and want us to pass a tax so that they could come here and give them money. Okay. They need that to do this, to move this. I can't believe they held that press conference, but they rallied later with the $200 grand. Okay. From the start, Strack and Van-Til, which is the major sponsor here, and it is 22 local grocery stores. But they recently been bought by Hy-Vee, which is a national company. So how do you continue to establish that brand and make sure that we're still the local grocery store and it works really well? Well, during this, the very first day, they're out grilling hot dogs, and they think they gave away 100,000 hot dogs. People just came by.
They were the first company to
part
come
of
out.
it, and it's only mainly because of one guy,
Yep.
and it's Jeff Strack was like, hey, we need to hit it right now. And then North Township needs to give away hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they coordinate with Jeff directly to give away gift cards, and Jeff cuts them a deal, and it gives them a discount, and they give gift cards to buy food at Strack and Van-Til all around the region. And it was excellent, but I went to a Strack and Van-Til after that came out, and it was kind of a long line. But so they responded, the whole company. They're giving away ice. They gave away hundreds of thousands of ice bags and all that. They hit it. They knew what the area needed, and they were there from the beginning. Not a lot of press.
Right.
They don't have to because I'm trumpeting it. The show right before us, the guy was talking about how he dealt directly with Strachan Van Til, and they gave him this, they gave him that to give away to, people that were suffering. Other people did that. That's kind of like the best marketing when other people are trumpeting what you've done. You're not out there saying, hey, look how great we are. Other people are out there saying, look how great we are. How do you get to that point?
I think, going back to Jeff, he moves fast, right? If you know him, he moves fast. Like he'll make a decision quick. But he understands community. And I cannot say that word enough in this podcast today, is that community is key to everything. They were the first to come out. I mean, it was instantaneous. I think I heard it the night that the storm happened. It came out across social. But he realizes that in order to be the hometown, quote unquote, grocery store, they have to do that, right? And that's what, and it's not that they have to, but like he understands that that's an expectation. If I want to be the hometown grocery, I need to do that for my community. And if you are not comfortable with that, don't expect to be the hometown favorite. But when you're offering resources, my wife sent me the thing as well. As soon as she saw it, she's like, hey, Strax is offering this. I'm like, oh, that's, amazing, right? But you start to hear a couple others that are coming out where they're offering this and that and so forth. But honestly, if you want to be part of your community, you have to look at it and say, what is best for my community? Long-term, my business will be profitable and be here a long time. But if I'm solving the issues of my community, they will embrace me and I will be here long-term.
Okay, so we've had this discussion, and I think we're going a little bit long here, but it's important. We're in a boom town. Mm-hmm. Northwest Indiana was a sleepy corner of Indiana, for kind of despised by the rest of the state, and then looked down upon by Chicago. And we're just sitting here like we're like the butt of New York jokes, like New Jersey was forever, and now everybody moved there. Well, that's what we are. So much traffic. There's so much investment. The bears might come. I mean, that's just the beginning of it, right? So a lot of companies are coming in here from other places. Mm-hmm. Crickets from a lot of them. Mm-hmm. A lot of them. I mean, British Petroleum, crickets. You know what I mean? And I just couldn't believe that, because in the past they were a big one. But it goes down to the smaller, like 1 and 2 branch banks that are trying to come over here from Illinois. And I'm just looking who's big. I'm looking on social. I'm looking who's contacting us to say, hey, don't forget, we're going to be giving this away. We're going to be doing that. Crickets from almost everyone from out of town moving here. And I think even it was like kind of tone deaf for the Bears, who did recover, and I'm going to give them that. But what about those, if you're like, small to medium, and you've gone to a new area and that area has problem, what should be your attitude?
I think the process that you're asking about here would be to, the individual offices, branches, whatever it is that we have here that have been started from outsiders, need to have a voice. They need to have the ability to talk back up to corporate and say, hey, this is happening. We need to do something. Here's my suggestions. It's the same thing with the small and medium-sized businesses. If you've got multiple locations and something's going on in one of them, you need to have a sounding board. You have to have somebody that can speak up and say, hey, we're noticing a trend happening over here. Now, I know we're dealing with 100-mile-per-hour winds that came through here and literally tore down everything. But, even something small that starts to happen, a small flood or, maybe a fire goes through a neighborhood or something like that. That's important to understand and go, okay, well, we need to respond to that. We need to be part of this community and offer our hand of help. Well, if you're, let's say you have 7 locations and one of your locations is in Chicago and one of them is in Indianapolis, and you're sitting in Chicago and don't hear anything in Indy, somebody in Indy has to tell you, hey, this is going on. And they had floods from this whole thing. I mean, we got the winds, they got the floods. If that person in that branch, in that office, in that retail location has the authority to run it up the ladder, that gives the corporate or the main owner the ability to respond and offer solutions quick. If you're, again, I don't know what's going on in New Jersey today. You mentioned New Jersey. I haven't had an ear in New Jersey in years, right? But I'm sure something is happening in the world right now. I mean, we talk about floods. We heard about the floods overseas yesterday, but there are fires and all kinds of things that are going on everywhere. And quite honestly, your business can actually reach out. So if you're selling product across the United States and there's something going on, I mean, we hear about the wildfires, we hear about earthquakes, we hear about blizzards. There's a million different things, but you can reach out to those customers in those areas and see if they need help. They're going to remember that. That's the biggest thing that I keep saying here is there are 2 types of businesses. Well, actually, there's 3 types of businesses in a natural disaster. The ones that try to gouge people, which nobody can stand, and they shut down immediately afterward because no one will go back to them. I'm not paying $10 a gallon for gas. Those that don't do anything and just fall silent, and they're not helping or hurting anything. They've fallen silent. And then there are those that have reached out and are helping, and you see them everywhere because they're doing amazing things to help the community. Those are the ones that are going to reap the benefits. And I'm not saying to quote unquote reap the benefits of a natural disaster, but people remember those that help.
He's Matt Hansen, a digital marketing professor. I'm Jim Diedlo, owner of Heartland Sports and WJOB. We do want to, we're looking at it from what this podcast is about, which is digital and every other kind of marketing for the small to medium-sized business. What are the tricks of the trade? Lost in this discussion is our compassion for everything that has happened. Matt lost weight. And honestly, so did I. My buddy came in. I had him for a drink. We usually get one every week. And I walked in. I go, what happened? And he goes, man, I'm like everybody else. I lost 10 pounds. A, we didn't have any food.
Yeah.
And B, I'm out there chopping stuff for 2 weeks. So I don't know what to say, but Northwest Indiana, Northeast Illinois, and Southern Michigan, we're going to heal, and we're going to come back stronger. And with that, Matt, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, just the only thing I would say is keep your ear open. Just understand that people need help. And even if you're just offering a generator to a neighbor, a business neighbor, at least it's something.
All right, guys. Until next time, see you later. This is episode 169 of Mastering Local Marketing. Go to Apple, Spotify. You can catch us there. Get us on YouTube. Just go to WJOB 1230, and we're under there. We got our own channel. If you want to see Matt Hansen and myself, Matt, thanks for coming in. This is 169, man. They're really going along here.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back after a couple of weeks being off. But yeah, it's time to get back and get some information out there to everybody.
You know, when we started this podcast, AI was a whisper.
Yeah, right.
It was a whisper. It was like something out there. I'm not really sure what it is, but it could change America. And that was just a year and a half ago, basically. And here we are in late August of 2026 recording this. And here we go. Have you noticed how much easier it has become to create marketing content with AI? The problem is everyone else has noticed too. Businesses are pumping out more emails, more social posts, more blogs, and more ads than ever before. And when everyone starts sounding polished, professional, and perfectly written, your marketing can begin to disappear into a sea of sameness. In this episode, we're talking about why AI may actually be making average marketing less effective, what businesses need to do differently, and how you can use AI without letting it strip away the personality that makes customers choose you. This is something we talk about outside of this podcast.
Yep. Yeah, AI has changed marketing. And I gave a lecture to my students yesterday about how AI has changed marketing for the good, how it's changed it for the bad. But, you know, today, most people have embraced it and started to use it for their businesses. Why? Well, because you can do so much faster content. You can create imagery. You can write things instantaneously. Things that used to take us hours and hours and hours to do, we do in a couple minutes at this point. And that's great. That's absolutely great because, there used to be 3 tiers of marketing. It was like horrible marketing, average marketing, and really great marketing. And I feel like we've gotten rid of horrible marketing, and now average marketing is now horrible marketing. Because when you look online or you look at anything at this point, you're starting to see similarities or let me put it this way. When my daughter looks at an ad, she goes, "That's AI." First thing she says, she's like, "That's AI." I'm like, "I know it's AI," because we can spot it now. We've gotten so good at looking at it to understand and go, well, yeah, I know. I can tell you where it's coming from at this point. That's how, when we start to look at it.
You could tell if it's Gemini or ChatGPT.
Without a doubt. They have their own capabilities. So what we've done is we've basically taken something that is supposed to elevate us, and we've made average marketing all the same. Because when you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, that I've seen that style before over at here and over there, and that came out of ChatGPT, or this one over here, I've seen this trend coming out of Nano Banana too, right? Like there's all these different trends that I keep seeing, and people keep doing it. And I have clients that do it, and I'm just like, okay, that's great, but they all look the same. It's not like you're not challenging your marketing mind. There's no strategic thinking into it. You're just posting to post. And I get that. I understand that 100%, but don't expect something tremendous to come out of it if you're just posting to post.
So there's so much in there, but let's start with the positives of this, okay? From an operations standpoint, it's actually a little bit challenging right now. Adriana, who is running a podcast network by herself, probably would have needed 2 or 3 people,
of course,
4 or 5 years ago, and now she doesn't. Lynette, who runs the radio station, building an app and putting in a new RAS, radio automation system, just by herself, right? 2 or 3 people with her in the past, right? And as recently as 3 years ago, okay? So from an operations standpoint, what it has done, it has made it very cheap for us to operate, and it has also precluded us from taking any interns because all the grunt work we used to give to interns is all being done by AI now.
Right.
So now people are coming here, universities, foundations. Hey, can you take this person? We'll pay them. But quite frankly, the problem is that from where they come in and to the level of technical expertise and industry knowledge you need to have, you're basically paying them so that I'll teach them, but I get nothing out of that for 6 months.
Yeah.
So nobody in Chicago is taking interns.
Right.
So we're getting the top of the line resumes all the time. I work for free. So-and-so will pay my freight from this college or whatever. There's nothing there. You can't. So what is happening is you're not getting that new talent into organizations that you might get that would give you, some other perspectives and give you some of that originality and so forth. You're using very, talented people that can do a lot. But one of those things is they can't write every email. They can't respond to every request. So a lot of that's automated. And that is one of your pet peeves. I mean, let's just be straight.
Yeah.
You hate it. You hate when it becomes impersonal.
Yes. So I use AI for every client that I work with. But, and here's the big but, I use it as a launching pad to get things started. It's not write this email for me, this promotional email, and we're going to send it out based on, what you come up with. It's literally, okay, that was a good first draft, but this doesn't work. This doesn't work. I needed to go this direction. Like we have become, or we need to, I guess the way we look at this is there's two people. There are the people that just drop it into something like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever it is and just say, yep, that's good enough, and send it.
That's Heartland Sports Guys.
Okay.
They're sports guys. Oh, that's great. Boom.
Yeah.
Out. I'm like, come on, man.
But
It's 4 pages long. It needs to be a paragraph.
Yeah.
And it is in that exact form of where there's a line in between. I mean, it's actually written like AI. And if something comes in like that, I don't care if they're giving me $100,000. I'm not reading it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you have that, but then on the flip side of it, and we see a lot of that, that's average marketing at this point.
When it was brand new AI, that was kind of like
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
But now you got to get off of that.
Right. And, it's 7 M dashes from somebody that can't communicate very well. Okay, that's great. Right. Like I know where you're going with this. Right. But there's average, and that's become average. People that just plug it in and whatever it spits out, that's what goes out. Then you have the really good marketer that uses it as a launching pad. They throw some ideas in there and they start to work through it. And the idea is I need 15% of it done so I can understand the direction that I need to go. And quite honestly, I've been doing marketing for years and years and years, and the hardest part is getting going. So I think AI has allowed us to take that and go, all right, just get me started so I can start to think about this. And, if you're building ads, building communications that are going out, it should not take you 1 minute to build an ad because there's no personality in there. There's no community, as we've talked about a lot about lately. You have to build that in there. So when you start to look at it, you go, okay, that's a good start, but I don't like this. You're not understanding this. Stop the assumption here, and ask AI, what are you assuming? Don't assume anything. Ask me a bunch of questions, and I will give you the answers of what I'm looking for. So if you can take a very simple AI class on prompts and, all these other things, it will pay off in dividends because what ends up happening is you will stop doing average marketing and you will start to look like, oh, okay, it could be AI, but it's better than what I'm seeing out there. So you start to stand out and you're really just doing a little bit more work. I mean, we're not talking hours and hours and hours, but use it as a tool, not as the marketing director for your business to just develop whatever comes out of it.
So you see, there's a trend here. It's an evolution. I mean, literally, if you have some of you, and they're usually not in Indiana, they're in other places, that listen to this. First of all, there's a trend right here that our producer, Adriana, started out as a sophomore or whatever in college, and you were like the big digital marketing guru professor. And then right before the show, Adriana is now teaching and has her own office hours, and you guys are sharing things as peers. It's really kind of cool to see that. All right. Similarly, there's a trend here. We started out right when AI was a whisper, and that was a year and a half ago, from late August 2026. And in the beginning, we were like, hey, this is how you use this software. This is what you do to prompt it in there. This is how do you use it to get you started. You've never stopped. You've never varied from your instructions about how to use AI. It's just a starting tool. Do not lose the flavor of your business, of your marketing. I get it. But we were into incredibly specific things. And now it's almost as if it's matured to the point where you're like, hey, don't use it too much. Don't let it be your marketing director. You can go on right now and see how many companies have laid off parts of their marketing department. And they basically say, I want AI to run my marketing, and then everybody else is just kind of managing the AI. To me and to you, that seems like a long-term liability.
Without a doubt. Right. So that was kind of the lecture that I had for my students yesterday. Before, first day of class, and we were talking about, where they're going, and they're all going into marketing. And I was having a conversation about where we were, when I started teaching, and, where we are today, and how technology evolves so fast. But, AI is, if you rely on it too much, you lose your identity, right? So AI has been trained on world views. It's been trained on what's out there on the internet. But you live in we're talking to small, medium-sized businesses. You live in a small little area. And most of your customers come within a 20-minute drive around your business. So you're relying on a tool that's been trained on things that have been trained on content that comes out of Brazil, comes out of China, comes out of England, comes out of Canada, right? Like, there's a million different areas that this content is feeding in. But, when we talk about where we're from, Northwest Indiana, it's a very diverse, I guess we'll call it a melting pot of just every single idea, type of person you can possibly think of. And if you don't understand that, talking about AI, it will produce things that don't resonate with the culture that you live in. One of the lectures that I'm giving in my classroom right now, actually later on today, is that the needs and wants of a customer are developed by their environment, right? So there are people in the world that need water, right? They need it because they can't get enough of it. We live just south of Lake Michigan, which is a huge amount of water. We're never going to run out of water, hopefully. But we don't have those issues. So we don't have this drastic need to overpay for water. What happened 2 weeks ago? We had a drastic need for generators because you were seeing 30, 40, 50 people lined up at the Home Depots and Lowe's trying to find generators. People were traveling 3-4 hours into Illinois, Wisconsin, et cetera, to get that kind of stuff. So going back to AI has been trained on a much larger model, not a local model. So when it's producing content from a marketing standpoint, it's not tapping into the things that are going on in your space. And that's the biggest thing that I don't think people understand. You have to add the flavor in there. You have to give it the ingredients. So if you just take it for what it's worth and you put it in there and you say, hey, generate this campaign and we're going to launch all these images and, video and all this other stuff. And you get it back and you look at the video that it's created and it doesn't resonate with your area whatsoever. And then you got to go and change a bunch of stuff. But that's what I don't think people are realizing, that you're losing your local municipalities, the culture that you have in these models, these AI models, because they're not trained on just your little 20-minute ride out from that radius around your business.
You guys understand that? I mean, that AI is trained on a global Library of Congress times a million. It is not trained on your local area and how people react to things. We're in a very industrial area. It has its own personality, so we understand it. All right, let's give one specific on this podcast for your small to medium sized business. Explain the difference between content numbers and effectiveness and why that should matter to the business.
Sure. So most people want to put out as much content as possible. So what they do is they measure their marketing by the amount of posts that they put out there. Oh, I want to post on Instagram 3 times a day. Okay, that's great. I want to post on Facebook once a day. I want to post on TikTok 3 times a week. Okay, those are numbers that they're putting out there. But how does that resonate with your goals? I can post every 5 minutes if I really want to, but if the content is no good, or the content is average, which is what we're seeing, no good marketing has become average marketing. At that point, it's just noise. People are skipping by it. They're not embracing it. They're not looking at it. And even if they do, they're not getting any value out of it. So if you're looking at just producing content numbers, that's fine. You can keep doing that. And you're going to work so hard to get all those numbers out there and make sure that you're constantly putting it out there, but you're not going to see what you're trying to see. When you look at it from effectiveness, like my favorite social media posts are, I've got one right now that I watch them all the time, and it's a bunch of auto technicians, mechanics, and they interview them and they ask them questions like, what's the worst car that you can buy for your 16-year-old? And I will watch every single one of those videos because I want to know, they work in the field. I want to know what they think is the worst car for somebody that is 16. Or they'll say, what's the most reliable car? What's the worst car? You know, they have all these different things. Those are the types of posts that I'm interested in because they're sharing things. There was a great one when we just went through the natural disaster. There was an electric company that got out there on video, and he was teaching you, here are the problems that are going on with your generator. Let's walk through them one by one so you can check them. And he was, my generator didn't start. So, of course, I watched the video. I'm trying to, I'm not a engine guy. My buddy across the street can do that, but I'm not, right? So I went through and I did the first 3 things, and that didn't solve it. It was an engine in the long run, but, those types of posts during that event were so much more valuable than just somebody saying, hey, do you need electric? We're here to help. We can install generators, right? No, he's literally offering help to those that are struggling. They may have a generator sitting in their garage that they're trying to get up. And he was just walking through and telling you all the things with electric. Here are some issues that you may have when you come back online. You may get a power surge from everything coming back in. So if you want to go through, unplug your computers, because you can't watch them, you can't use them anyway. So unplug them, because if you get that power surge and you're not on a strip, you could lose even more than you're already losing.
I had a buddy that came home and didn't realize he had flicked the garbage disposal on for 3 hours before he could get home from work when the power came on after 13 days. And he's like, I'm pretty sure I burned out that motor because I'm dumb.
Yeah.
And, but anyways, that would have been, and, I thought about that after he told me that, man, maybe I should do something, but we're media. We're not like garbage disposal people.
Right.
The garbage disposal installers could have easily done that video and gotten a lot of views and a lot of effectiveness.
Well, here's another one. A locksmith could have started putting out different things, right? So you come home and you rely on your automatic garage door opener. I drove an hour 40 to get home, and I realized I did not have my house key to the front door because I never use it.
Which you climbed through a window.
No, I had to call my daughter, and who was already an hour and 40 away the other way, because that's where I had just come from. She was babysitting, and I had to drive all the way back to go pick her up and then drive all the way home. So 3 hours and something just to get home so I could
Just
get
a couple of miles. It was that many trees down and stoplights
Right.
out. And
But a locksmith can come in and say, hey, this is a good lesson. I know a lot of you are currently locked out of your houses because you don't carry a house key. Here's an opportunity to find a safe location on your property. Doesn't have to be under the mat, but put a key box somewhere that you can access if this ever happens. Put it in your backyard, in the back corner, whatever it may be, and have that key ready to go. Like, from a locksmith's perspective, it's relevant, but you're hearing really good tips that next time that's not going to happen.
content numbers versus effectiveness. Why AI marketing is starting to just blend in. That's the name of this podcast, episode 169 for Mastering Local Marketing. Thanks, as always, to Adriana Alvarez, who makes copious use of AI to get her job done, but is managing it well. She's a producer here. Thanks a lot to Matt Hansen for just telling you what he knows. But most of all, thanks to you for listening and watching. You can get us on Apple, Spotify. Please like us. Go to YouTube. Matt, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Until next time, see you later. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a WJOB Spotlight. It's a little micro podcast. If you want one for your business or something you want to promote, get a hold of Adriana with 2 N's at WJOB1230.com. You can watch this. You can also see it as its own podcast on Apple, Spotify. With us is digital marketing guru, Matt Hansen. We do a podcast together called Mastering Local Marketing. It's a long-form podcast. Please go find it if you want to hear more about what Matt has to say. Matt, we're coming off of a major storm. We're only a couple weeks past it. What do you want to tell businesses about how they handled the storm?
I think, looking at how everyone reacts, I guess the question I would ask them is, if you had to give a report card on from A to F on how you responded, what would it be, right? And I saw multiple companies come out and offer assistance, offer free product, offer just a variety of different things. And there are some that went and stayed completely silent. People that had the opportunity to provide certain things, but maybe just kind of, and I get it. They're probably dealing with other things at their own house and all that other fun stuff. But the ones that stood out, the ones that took and actually reached out to the community, the ones that offered simple solutions, things that they already had an abundance of, right? Whether that's space, whether that was, I saw people posting, if you just need to take a shower because you haven't had water in 2 weeks, you can come to our facility. Offering food and water and shelter to people, because I don't think I've ever known a time where I know 5 people that have holes in their roof. And that's what the interesting part was, looking at it from a community standpoint and what businesses just came out of the woodwork and became the pillar of their community. And that's probably the biggest thing I've seen in the last 2 weeks is, if you want to be part of your community, you have to act like your community. And those that want to be part of it, that didn't necessarily jump out and say, hey, we're going to do, some help here. And I'm not saying you've got to be the poster child company that is out there and putting their brand over everything. But do some volunteer work. Help your employees. Maybe they need help, right? Like anything that you can do during a natural disaster, which is exactly what we've gone through, provides value to your community. And if you want to be that community partner that we're always talking about, these are the small things that we need to do. I hope we never go through something like that again. I hope to not see 100 mile per hour plus winds go through my neighborhood and tornadoes 2 roads down from me. But these are things from a business perspective that you have to keep your finger on the pulse and go, okay, something horrible just happened. Is my family fine? Great. Are my employees fine? Great. Now I need to get out there in the community and make sure my community is fine. And if you do that from a marketing perspective, long-term business owner, I think what we're saying is people will always remember the help that you've provided. And, we talked before getting on this recording just about the number of people that we remember seeing that were coming out and offering a helping hand. And they're not offering millions of dollars. They're literally just offering labor and some water and some food and all this other stuff. But people remember the businesses, the entrepreneurs, the members of the community that have helped, and they will come to your help in the future if you ever need them. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've taken out over the last 2 weeks. If something happens, a natural disaster in your area, it could be something very small. It could be just, a family loses their home to a fire in the middle of winter. If you want to be a pillar of your community, reach out, see if there's anything that you can do just to offer some help.
He's Matt Hansen. Mastering Local Marketing is our podcast. This is just a short snippet. If you want to hear more, talk about stuff like that, go on Apple, Spotify, and listen to Mastering Local Marketing. Until next time, see you later.